Good evening. We begin tonight with a conflict no one saw coming. Not even the world's top experts believed they would be hit. These were not enemy nations, they were neutral. From the White House, an extraordinary admission from former President Trump. He concedes he miscalculated, never believing Iran would strike its neighbors, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain. And now, according to former National Security Advisor John Bolton, Trump is trapped in the Strait of Hormuz. A single misstep has spiraled into a crisis now spreading across the globe, from open war to a crippling energy crisis and a looming threat to the world economy. And more worryingly, this chain of escalation appears to have no off switch. Every attack is met with a response, and every response triggers an even wider conflict. The question tonight, who is actually in control? But we're learning tonight that President Trump was mistaken when he said no one saw this coming. Because 9 days before the surprise American and Israeli attack, Iran issued a direct and open warning. An official letter was sent to the United Nations with a stark message. If attacked, all enemy bases, facilities, and assets in the region would become legitimate targets. The problem, sources say, is that Donald Trump underestimated that threat. The U.S. deployed warships to the Middle East in full force, and now that decision has backfired spectacularly on America. The war is now entering its fourth week with no signs of slowing down. Its intensity remains constant, even becoming more methodical. This is a clear signal this conflict is not designed to end quickly. And at this hour, President Trump is beginning to face a harsh reality. Iran is not bluffing. The situation has escalated dramatically as key Iranian figures fall one by one. Ali Larijani, the head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, was reportedly killed in an Israeli attack on March 17, 2026. His loss is said to be even more jarring than that of a central figure like Ali Khamenei at the start of the conflict. The reason? He was the man who de facto ran the government, especially after Khamenei's death. But it did not end there. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has confirmed the death of General Gholam-Reza Soleimani, commander of the powerful Basij forces. Just 1 day later, Iran's Minister of Intelligence, Esmail Khatib, was also killed. This is not just a series of losses. This is a systematic dismantling of Iran's core leadership. On the ground, the fallout is becoming far more dangerous. American and Israeli strikes have reportedly come perilously close to the Bushehr nuclear power plant, an active nuclear reactor that is also home to hundreds of Russian technicians. If their safety is truly threatened, Moscow would have a powerful reason to respond, not just with diplomacy, but with military force. At the same time, 2 mysterious fighter jets were spotted over the city of Shiraz. Their design suggests they were either a Dassault Rafale or a Eurofighter Typhoon, aircraft not in the American arsenal. This has immediately sparked speculation about the involvement of Gulf countries like Qatar or Saudi Arabia. And then came the most sensitive blow. Israel attacked the South Pars gas field, Iran's energy heartland and one of the largest in the world. This is no longer just an escalation. It is a signal that this conflict is entering a profoundly more dangerous phase. Intense American-Israeli attacks have now pushed the situation into that much more dangerous phase. Following the attack on Iran's gas field, threats of retaliation were immediately aimed at the region's energy heartland. Iran has issued evacuation warnings for strategic facilities across Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Israel. Oil and gas facilities are now being called legitimate targets, marking a major shift from the conflict's previously limited scope. In Saudi Arabia, 2 Iranian missiles have reportedly struck a gas field. The impact is severe, and not just regional, but global. Energy prices are threatening to skyrocket, and market stability is shattered. This conflict is slowly morphing from a military war into an economic war on a global scale. Meanwhile, a series of explosions have rocked the area around Ben Gurion Airport. Suspicions are now emerging of the use of cluster munitions, a type of weapon that scatters dozens of small bombs in a single, wide, and difficult-to-control attack. This dramatically increases the risk to civilians and expands the area of contamination. The sky over Tel Aviv has turned an eerie orange. Explosions, fires, and aerial interceptions are now continuous. Defense systems are working non-stop, creating a tense and gripping atmosphere felt across the city and deep into its suburbs. The latest satellite imagery also reveals significant damage at Al Dhafra Air Base and Prince Sultan Air Base. We can see damaged hangars, missing buildings, and clear blast points. This is not the first attack, but a subsequent wave that is becoming more precise and targeted. At least 3 impact points have been identified inside the U.S. Military complex. The targets are clear, hangars, warehouses, and operational areas like aprons and maintenance facilities. One hangar was even hit repeatedly, showing a systematic effort to cripple the base's capabilities over time. The latest attacks also struck an important American symbol: the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad was attacked by the Islamic Resistance in Iraq group using a Shahed-101 kamikaze drone. Worryingly, the CRAM defense system reportedly failed to intercept it, exposing a new vulnerability in American defenses. This is not just retaliation. It is a message that the battlefield is now everywhere and no longer recognizes territorial boundaries. The United States' losses in this conflict are becoming stark, and the figures continue to climb. The cost of the war has already surged past $24 billion. Military operations, troop deployments, and defense systems are draining the budget at a rapid pace, exceeding many of the initial worst-case scenarios. On the ground, losses of military hardware are also mounting. High-value radars, drones, and base facilities have all suffered serious damage. And what's truly striking is that multi-million-dollar interceptor missiles are being used against cheap drones, a cost imbalance that makes this strategy increasingly expensive and difficult to sustain long-term. Meanwhile, the human toll continues to mount on all sides. Iran is bearing the heaviest burden, with more than 1,400 people killed and at least 18,500 others injured. These figures reflect the high intensity of the attacks and their widespread impact on both civilian and military areas. On the other side, Israel is reporting 17 deaths and over 3,000 injuries. While smaller, this number still shows that retaliatory strikes by Iran and its proxies are capable of penetrating defenses and creating real pressure at home. For the United States, at least 13 military personnel have been confirmed killed, either in combat operations or in aircraft accidents directly linked to this conflict. And these numbers are not final. As long as this escalation continues, the costs and the casualties will almost certainly continue to rise. Amid the escalating war, one thing is becoming clear. Global opinion of the United States has plummeted, with a 79% disapproval rating since the war began. In many European countries, a wave of opposition is spreading. Demonstrations have erupted in major cities. Public trust is collapsing, and political leaders are under immense pressure not to be dragged further into the conflict. Support that was once solid is now beginning to fracture. In Iran, however, the situation is the exact opposite. Citizens are taking to the streets, but not to demand peace. The calls we are hearing are for revenge. The national narrative is hardening, solidarity is growing, and the government is sending a clear message. This is not a conflict that will be stopped anytime soon. This raises a question that is becoming increasingly difficult to answer. Who is actually winning? America is spending billions of dollars, facing severe economic pressure, and slowly losing the support of its allies. Even some previously neutral countries are beginning to shift their stance. Meanwhile, Iran continues to be hit, but remains able to endure and retaliate with increasingly effective attack patterns. Other countries from Europe to Asia are caught in the middle. They are not fighting in the war, but they are bearing its consequences. We are seeing energy price spikes, supply chain disruptions, and a deepening global economic uncertainty. Now the escalation is entering a new phase. Attacks are beginning to target energy infrastructure, refineries, gas fields, and vital shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz. Even a slight disruption at this point sends immediate shockwaves through the world market. Oil prices are climbing, markets are volatile, and the economic pressure is becoming universal. And behind it all, Tehran holds one position: no compromise, no surrender. As long as that stance holds, this conflict will not subside. And that means the world is no longer just a spectator, but is now caught in the vortex of its impact.